You open your eyes, but it feels as if you never truly slept. The alarm hasn't even gone off, and already there's a weight pressing down on your chest. Your body moves, but your mind drags chains. Every thought feels heavy. Every breath feels borrowed. The day has not yet begun, and yet you are already exhausted. You tell yourself maybe it's because you didn't sleep enough. Maybe you just need more discipline, more motivation, more willpower. But deep down, a quiet truth begins to whisper. This isn't laziness. This isn't weakness. This is sickness, and it doesn't belong to you alone. It belongs to all of us. We live inside a system that demands constant acceleration, constant productivity, constant proof that you are worth something. But here is the truth no one told you. The exhaustion you carry is not an individual flaw. It is not your personal failure. It is the natural consequence of a world that has turned human beings into machines. You are not lazy. You are trapped. And what traps you is not made of iron or bars, but of invisible expectations, relentless comparisons, and the endless whisper in your head that says, do more, be more, never stop. This is not just tiredness. This is the Burnout Society. A world where even your rest must be productive, where even your silence must have a purpose, and where stopping is seen as weakness. But here's the reality. What you are experiencing is not your fault. It is systemic, it is cultural, and it is slowly consuming you. In this video, we are going to peel back the mask of this hidden prison. We are going to expose the lie that has been sold to you that if you are tired, unfocused, or unmotivated, it is because you are not strong enough. The truth is darker, and at the same time, more liberating. Because once you see the chains, you can begin to loosen them. Take a breath. Let the noise of the world fade for a moment. You are not broken. You are simply living in a society that feeds on exhaustion, and the first act of rebellion is to understand it. The invisible prison, from discipline to performance. In the past, power was obvious. It shouted at you. Factories, schools, prisons, and armies were built on clear rules and harsh commands. Someone stood above you, giving orders you could not refuse. Michel Foucault called this the disciplinary society, a world of control through visible authority. You obeyed because punishment was real, direct, and inescapable. The walls were solid, the chains were iron, and the rules were written in black and white. But that world has changed. Today, the chains are gone, the walls have crumbled, and no one stands over you with a whip or a command. Instead, you are told you are free. Free to build, free to grow, free to achieve anything you want, so long as you never stop. This is what Byung-Chul Han calls the performance society. The boss isn't standing outside anymore. He's inside your head, disguised as motivation, discipline, and self-improvement. That's the trap. You believe you're in control, but in reality, you're chasing an endless list of goals you didn't create. You wake up with pressure to be more productive, to optimize your time, to outperform your past self. And when you fail, no one punishes you except you. You have become your own prison guard, cracking the whip on yourself, demanding more, faster, better. This invisible prison is far more cruel than the old one. At least in the disciplinary society, you knew who held the power. Today, the line is blurred. You can't see where the system ends and where you begin. The walls are inside you, built out of expectations, comparisons, and the fear of being left behind. And because it feels like your choice, you blame yourself every time you collapse under the weight. The performance society is seductive because it hides oppression inside the language of freedom. You're told you can do anything, and that sounds empowering until it quietly becomes an obligation. You can transforms into you must. Every opportunity becomes a demand. Every possibility becomes a responsibility. And the result is a war you wage against yourself, day after day, with no victory in sight. Positivity as violence. The greatest weapon of this new age isn't force, it's seduction. You're not told you can't anymore, you're told yes, you can. And at first, it feels like freedom. motivational slogans, endless productivity hacks, the promise that discipline and grind will take you anywhere you want to go. But hidden inside that message is a darker truth. If you can, then you must. If you don't succeed, it's your fault. If you're tired, unmotivated, or falling behind, then you're simply not working hard enough. That's how positivity becomes violence. This is the psychology of the hustle culture. The demand for constant progress, constant improvement, constant output, smiles plastered over exhaustion, stay positive slogans painted over cracks in your soul. Byung-Chul Han said it clearly. The 21st century isn't ruled by repression, but by stimulation. No one is telling you to stop. Everyone is telling you to go faster, push harder, keep moving. Even the moments that should free you leisure, silence, rest are stolen. Sleep is tracked, measured, optimized. Vacations are planned not for joy, but for recharging. Reading becomes self-development. Meditation becomes another tool to sharpen your performance. Nothing is allowed to simply exist for its own sake. Everything is forced into the logic of productivity. And here's the question you need to ask yourself. Do you feel guilty when you stop? Do you feel anxious when you're not producing something? Do you catch yourself thinking about work even when you're supposed to be resting? That guilt isn't natural, it's manufactured. It's the system whispering in your ear that you're wasting time, that you're falling behind, that you're not enough. This is why so many people are exhausted but can't explain why. Because you're not just tired from work. You're tired from existing inside a structure that never lets you breathe. A structure that disguises pressure as freedom and oppression as opportunity. And once you see that clearly, you realize the fatigue you carry isn't laziness at all. It's the natural result of living in a world that never allows you to stop. Self-exploitation. Becoming a product. Modern life has turned you into a product. You're not just living, you're managing, curating, optimizing. You've become a personal brand, a walking resume, a constant showcase of what you can produce. Everything about you, your body, your mind, even your downtime, is measured by its usefulness. You don't just exercise to feel alive. You exercise to be more efficient. You don't just learn to grow. You learn to stay competitive. Even your rest is calculated, tracked, and justified as recovery for more work tomorrow. This is the cruel irony. You're told you're free. Free to choose your path, free to design your life, free to achieve whatever you want. But that freedom is a disguise. Because no matter which path you take, the destination is the same. More output, more optimization, more performance. It's an endless cycle that never allows you to simply exist without proving your value. And it doesn't stop with you. Relationships are no longer about connection. They're about networking. Your body isn't a vessel for living. It's a machine to be upgraded. Even spirituality is repackaged into coaching sessions and productivity strategies. Every part of life is stripped of its soul and forced into the logic of performance. Nothing escapes. What makes this system even more brutal is that you enforce it on yourself. No boss is standing over your shoulder. No one is forcing you to grind late into the night. You've internalized the demands so deeply that you push yourself harder than anyone else ever could. You've become both the worker and the overseer, the prisoner and the guard, the product and the salesman. And deep down, you know this isn't freedom. Because true freedom has space for imperfection, for failure, for stillness. But when every moment of your life is managed and monetized, when even joy has to justify itself as productive, what you're living is not freedom. It's a cage with invisible walls. The forgotten arts, silence, boredom, contemplation. Silence used to be a natural part of life. Boredom was once a doorway, not a curse. Out of it came reflection, creativity, and the kind of stillness where true presence is born. Some of the greatest art, philosophy, and wisdom humanity ever created didn't come from constant noise or endless activity. It came from facing the emptiness and letting it speak. But today, boredom is treated like an enemy. The moment it appears, you reach for your phone. A notification fills the gap. A video distracts the silence. A new task gives you something to chase. Every second must be occupied, stimulated, monetized. Your attention is constantly fragmented, pulled in 100 directions, leaving you unable to sink into anything deeply. You skim the surface of life, never diving beneath it. You feel, but you don't dive. You live, but you don't inhabit. That's why even when you rest, you don't feel rested. Why even when you sleep, you wake up exhausted. Your mind has been trained to sprint from one stimulus to the next, never allowing itself to settle. And in that endless motion, you've forgotten what it means to stop. Stopping feels uncomfortable now. Silence feels unnatural. Doing nothing feels like failure. That's how far we've drifted from our own humanity. We've lost the courage to sit with ourselves, to face the emptiness, to endure the boredom long enough for it to transform into clarity. And that is why so many are restless, anxious, and hollow inside. Because without silence, without stillness, without space, the soul withers. We've forgotten how to stop. And until we relearn that skill, until we reclaim the forgotten arts of silence, boredom, and contemplation, we'll continue running faster in circles, confusing motion with meaning, and mistaking productivity for life itself. The power of no true rebellion. The world has trained you to believe freedom means doing everything, that the more options you have, the more powerful you are. But that illusion is the very thing that keeps you chained. Real freedom isn't the ability to do more, it's the courage to refuse. Byung-Chul Han calls it the freedom of not being able. The right to stop, the right to rest, the right to exist without proving anything. Saying no has become an act of rebellion. No to endless tasks. No to fake opportunities disguised as obligations. No to the constant pressure of being your best self. Refusal is not weakness, it's strength. Because it takes far more courage to resist the system's demands than to blindly follow them. Not every second needs to be useful. Not every breath needs a purpose. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. To sit in silence, to let go of the pressure, to exist without optimization. That kind of stillness terrifies a world addicted to productivity because it breaks the illusion that your worth is tied to your output. Imperfection itself becomes revolutionary. Choosing to rest when you're told to grind. Choosing to walk away when you're told to push harder. Choosing to accept your limits instead of hiding them. These are not acts of laziness, they're acts of defiance. They're proof that you are more than a machine. The moment you realize you don't have to play this game, everything changes. You stop chasing every demand. You stop living as a prisoner of endless performance. And in that refusal, in that bold act of saying no, you uncover a strength that the system cannot control. Burnout as a social symptom. Burnout is too often treated as a personal flaw, a sign of weakness, or a failure of willpower. You hear it everywhere: manage your time better, discipline your mind, toughen up. But the truth is much bigger than you. Burnout isn't just an individual struggle. It's a symptom of a society that has gone off balance, a collective illness spreading through every corner of modern life. Look around. Depression, anxiety, attention disorders, they're everywhere. Not because people suddenly became broken, but because the demands placed on human beings have reached a breaking point. When your nervous system is constantly flooded with pressure, when your attention is fractured into 1,000 pieces, when rest is branded as weakness, what you're experiencing is not dysfunction. It's the body's natural response to systemic overload. You are not failing because you are tired. You are tired because the system itself is failing. The exhaustion you carry is not a private burden. It's proof that the world we live in is unsustainable. This is not about individual shortcomings. It's about a culture that places impossible demands on everyone and then blames the individual for collapsing under the weight. When we see burnout as a personal problem, the cycle continues. But when we see it as a social symptom, something shifts. The blame moves away from the individual and onto the structures that keep us trapped. The crisis isn't in you. It's in the way life has been organized. And that recognition is the first step toward collective change. Because if burnout is systemic, then healing can't just be personal. It has to be shared. It has to be cultural. And that means the fight is not just about saving yourself, it's about reclaiming humanity itself from a world that demands too much and gives too little. If you are exhausted, it's not laziness. It's a cry from your soul, a signal that something deeper is wrong not with you, but with the world you've been forced to live in. The first step isn't to push harder, hustle more, or fix yourself like a broken machine. The first step is recognition. To finally see the chains that were invisible all along. Pause for a moment and let that truth sink in. You are not weak. You are surviving in a society that makes even strength collapse. The constant fatigue, the guilt when you rest, the sense of never being enough, these are not private failures. They are evidence of a system that exploits the human spirit until it breaks. That's why reflection matters. Naming the problem is itself a form of resistance. And you don't have to do it alone. Share how you feel. Speak the truth others are too afraid to admit. Because when we realize that our exhaustion is collective, the weight becomes lighter, and the possibility of change becomes real. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are human in a world that has forgotten what humanity means. And the moment you recognize that, the chains begin to loosen.